When Jesus and his disciples left the synagogue, they entered the house of Simon and Andrew with James and John. Now Simon's mother-in-law was in bed with a fever, and they told him about her at once. He came and took her by the hand and lifted her up. Then the fever left her, and she began to serve them. That evening at sundown they brought to him all who were sick or possessed with demons, and the whole city was gathered around the door. And he cured many who were sick with various diseases and cast out many demons. And he would not permit the demons to speak because they knew him. In the morning, while it was still very dark, he got up and went out to a deserted place, and there he prayed. And Simon and his companions hunted for him. When they found him, they said to him, "Everyone is searching for you." He answered, "Let us go to the neighboring towns so that I may proclaim the message there also. For that is what I came out to do." And he went throughout Galilee, proclaiming the message in their synagogues and casting out demons. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Christ.
So since we don't have music this morning, that gives us an extra 20 minutes. So settle in. So today's gospel, still the first chapter of Mark. The last 3 weeks we've had the first chapter of Mark. He covers a lot of ground in the first chapter. He goes from John the Baptist straight to the baptism, to the wilderness, to calling the disciples, and now the first miracle. And this story is important on a couple levels. Not only is it Jesus' first miracle, but I want to look at his reaction and others' reaction to this. So it says that they leave the synagogue where he's been teaching, and they go to Simon's house. Now, as a side note, we learned a lot about Simon and Andrew here. One, we learned that Simon's married. He's got a mother-in-law. We learned that they live in the traditional style that working class people would certainly live in, where multiple generations of families and brothers and sisters all living together in a large house. It says that they come to that house and they tell him that that Peter, or Simon's mother-in-law, is sick. Now, notice it didn't say Peter. I don't know if Peter's happy about this situation or not. We're not told. But nonetheless, Jesus goes to his mother-in-law, takes her by the hand, lifts her up, and she's well. She's well. And not only is she feeling better, you know, we ask somebody who we know, say, "How you doing?" "Well, I'm feeling better." Right? No, she's made well. And the response to that, it says that she was made well, and she gets up and serves them. Now, in every Bible study I've ever gone through this, I told them this Wednesday, had the same reaction. Typically, not to be, but typically some ladies in the group was like, "Oh yeah, of course she had to get up and serve them. She's just been sick. Can't she have a day in bed to rest?" And I said, I always say, now first of all, it doesn't say that anybody told her she had to. It doesn't say that she was made to. I see it as in the bigger picture, as a proper response to the grace that she's just received. And it should be all of our response to God's grace. She received a tremendous blessing in this healing, and she serves in response. I think that's a absolutely vital piece of our understanding of our relationship with God. We've been blessed. We've been blessed. And it doesn't mean that every day, every moment of our life is perfect. It doesn't mean that there aren't things that happen that we don't understand or don't want. It doesn't mean that everybody around us is healthy and happy. It doesn't mean any of those things. But as soon as we lose sight of our blessing, there's a real good chance we're going to struggle to serve others. That's just human nature. That's just human nature. So she serves. She serves. We don't know what she did. Didn't matter. That wasn't the point. Mark said she served them. Now the story goes on. Others are brought to Jesus. They're excited, right? This guy's healing people. He's casting out demons. This is fantastic. Who wouldn't be happy about this? And Mark says his words are, the whole city was out there. Well, obviously that's hyperbole. But it meant that there were more people than we could count. In antiquity, it's important to note, this again, kind of a side note here since we have plenty of time. But in antiquity, when they write about these things, it's not at all uncommon, and not just in the scriptures, but if you go to other historians, Josephus, others, they wouldn't say there were 2,238 people there. There was nobody at the gate counting. There was nobody taking tickets. They didn't think of things in those terms. If there were 500, 1,000, we even see stories of certainly 5,000, 4,000, 5,000 in Scripture where they estimated. But often, when it's a large crowd, in the thousands, they just, whole city or United States, more people than could fit in the such and such countryside that people would have been familiar with. The point is, it's a lot. It's a lot. We don't need to take it as the whole city. It means it was a big crowd. Jesus was attracting a lot of people with what he was doing here. They're excited. Why wouldn't they be? And so the next morning, Simon and the others are expecting more of the same. And when they get up and realize that Jesus is gone, they go looking for him. Now Jesus, on the other hand, has taken time to go and pray, to spend time in communion with the Father. And note here that he had to get up before daylight, had to sneak away to someplace quiet in order to have this time. Does that sound familiar to anybody? I can't tell you how many times myself over the years, or I've heard others say it, boy, it is just really hard to find that time or that quiet space or whatever to pray. And for myself, I'll only speak for myself, what a fantastic excuse, right? To excuse myself from doing what I want to do, what I ought to. Well, that's those kids' fault, right? Every time it's the kids' fault, right? It's a pretty easy excuse. Jesus himself had to carve out that time and that place. So he goes to pray. And we don't know what he prays for. We don't know what is said. But we do know this. When he comes back, when Simon then finally find him, they say, hey, everybody's looking for you. Let's crank this thing back up like we did last night. People are happy. They're excited. This is fantastic. This is what we signed up for. Jesus says to him, no. No. That's not what I came for. He said, let's go to the neighboring towns and villages and share the good news, share the gospel. That's what I came for. Well, that's a powerful moment to me in the Gospels. Because for most of us, myself, those of us with ego, wow, there's a huge crowd that's excited to see you. They want more of what you got. Sign me up, right? Sounds good. But Jesus, Mark couples this with his prayer, so I'm going to couple it as well. Jesus, I think through prayer, through that communion, is able to recognize what his purpose is. He's able to stay focused on his goal. He's able to see the big picture and to not get drugged down, in this case, by people's praise. And we'll see many times later by people's insults, by people trying to tear him down. He's able to stay focused on the goal. And that's a hard thing for us as human beings to do, whether we're talking about our ministries or other things in our lives, but I'm going to speak specifically about our ministries and living out our faith. But it's often hard for us to stay focused on the goal. Particularly in a case like this, it's real easy to get sidetracked by the praise by the easy place to go and get the pat on the back, to have people lift you up. And it's just as easy to get kind of discouraged when people don't lift you up. Maybe when they even try to tear you down. It's real easy to go off the other direction as well. It's a very difficult thing to know your goal and to stay focused on that goal. And this happens all the time in ministries, in big ways and small. I know in our church, in the firewood ministry, that's a perfect example of a time where it can be difficult at times to stay focused on the goal. Because sometimes you're helping people who, quite frankly, through their conversation with you, don't seem to want to help themselves. Or seem to want you to do a lot more than what you've offered, and you're sitting there saying, I keep bringing you free firewood. Well, let's just say thank you for that, and maybe we can go on with this. You know, you're having these conversations with yourself, and sometimes, certainly for me and other guys, every once in a while I say, hey, let's pull back, think about why are we doing this? Why are we doing it? It's not about how it makes us feel. That's not the goal. It's not about the people we're taking it to responding to us in the way we think they ought to. That's not the goal. What was the goal? The goal was to help people heat their homes, to let them know that somebody cares through our time and talent. That was the goal. So if we're still delivering wood, we're still doing that. Okay. But I've seen countless ministries over the years kind of fall off the rails. Because usually, unfortunately, it's because of negativity. Somebody tears them down, somebody doesn't appreciate what they're doing, somebody thinks they ought to do it differently or the way that's always been done. And if you can't do one of those things, then let's just blow this thing up. I've seen it over and over again, not just in the churches I've been a part of. I've been fortunate not to have too much of that, but I've seen it in a lot of other ways, a lot of other places. The ability to stay focused on the goal is so important. And we see that in our epistle, our second reading day in Paul. It's kind of a weird way that Paul's talking, or at least many years ago I thought it was strange. He's saying, I've tried to be everything for everybody, right? Well, we all heard all of you can't do that. Can't do that. Be yourself. Be yourself. But what Paul is trying to express here is he's saying, in whatever ways I was able to, I was flexible. I tried to be what people need me. When I went to the Jews, I lived by the law. That's what they needed to see out of me to be able to hear what I had to say. And he says, when I went to the Gentiles, those who are not under the law, said I ate the way they ate. I lived the way they lived when it didn't contradict the command of Christ. So that they were able to hear what I had to say. His point being, he was focused on the goal. The goal was to share the good news. The goal was to save souls. The goal was to share Christ's love. But he recognized that in order to do that, he might have to be willing to put his own ego, his own needs aside. He might have to be willing to say, you know what, this isn't the way I want to eat, but it's the way you eat. So I'll do that. This isn't necessarily the way that I think, but I recognize it's the way you think. It's not right or wrong. It's different. That's a powerful lesson. And it's all focused on the goal. So my question for you in your life, in your ministries, in your work is, what is the goal? What is the purpose? If you can't answer that question, then start there. Start there. Figure out what your purpose is. And it doesn't matter whether you're 5 years old or 85 years old. Your life can and should have purpose. Should have a goal. And then after that, once you've answered that first question, are you staying focused on that you getting distracted by the world around you? Are you letting others draw you away from that goal? Now, the third and final question kind of erases a lot of what I've said, unfortunately, is should that still be your goal? Is God still calling you in that direction in your life? Because sometimes our ministries have a season. They're where we need to be for a while, and then we need to move on to something else. We've got a new passion, a new place where our hearts are being called. We have to let go of those old ministries. Maybe others pick them up, maybe they don't. Whatever, doesn't matter. The question is this where you're being called? But if we can't stay focused, if we can't see the big picture, chances are we're going to get off course. Chances are our own ego, our own insecurities are going to take us somewhere that we never wanted to be, somewhere we were never intended